you. I, Dr. Nirav Y. Pandya, warmly welcome to all of you on the behalf of Applied Science and Humanities Department of Parul University, Vadodara. I also would like to welcome you. I also today's speaker, Dr. Alpha Dasora ma'am, has completed her PhD in physics with a specialization of from Mohanlal Supadia University, Udaipur. Yes, research published 42 research papers in the reputed peer-reviewed site. Professor work as research associated at Mohanlal Supadia University, Udaipur, as a DST Young Scientist at University of Mumbai, as a DST Inspire Faculty and UGC at UMDA Center for Excellence in Basic Sciences, Mumbai. He has been on Inspired Faculty Award 2015. He is the lifetime member of Indian Society Spring 8 Japan User Community. She has completed 2 funded research projects under her guidance, and presently 1 UGC funded project is going. UGC Assistant Professor at Computational Materials Science Physics Faculty of Science, MS University of Baroda, and presently 1 student is pursuing PhD under the guidance of MED. And I request you to start the today's memory. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nirav, for this opportunity and the warm introduction. So I wish to thank Parul Institute and Applied Science and Humanity for providing this opportunity. So today the topic of the webinar is computational approach. So today I will going to discuss how material can be designed using computational technique and what are the different methods and how we can with the experimental results. Okay. So let's start. So this is the outline of the webinar. So first I will discuss what is the different methods for material design. One of the technique which is currently very famous and recently introduced, that is the machine learning using high throughput screening. The most widely used technique, that is the density functional theory. So I will introduce that also. Now application of density functional theory for the design photo. Example which I used for material designing using density functional theory. So that I will discuss today. So start with the introduction. What is material design? How we will define material design? Health, microelectronics, and renewable energy industries. So creating novel material with a specific combination of properties that meet specific functional needs, challenge that involve design and ultimately material integration and device fabrication. So we have to start from the scratch. What is the property? What will be the characterization? Then we have to verify with the experimental data towards to reach at the fabrication level. So in this regard, theory has become an essential partner to experimenting into and determine with the using computations to accelerate the design, discovery of time to market of new material and device with tailored functionalities and enhanced performance. Okay, so this is the basic flow chart how the material designing takes place with the initial data. So let's start with the data source. So suppose we have some scientific literature with us that the particular material is useful for that. So information depending on our requirement, whether we need on the basis of, we need the screening on the basis of band gap, we need on screening on the basis of electronic property or any other physical property. So we have to take the initial screening, then go to the material structure, then the physical properties, and after that screening we'll go to the higher level, that is the enrichment of the data or quantum chemical calculation. Calculate the different properties of the material, then we can analyze a specific application and we the experimental data, and again this is the screening level. So available experimental data can again use for the screening of the any other material. So this is a cycle how the specific photovoltaic, photocatalytic, magnetic material, whatever application is there. So this is the basic flow chart how material design takes place using theoretical technique. Both use the same method. They have to go through these screening procedure. So advancement in the material design. So initially based on the empirical science, initially researchers do the experiment success, is it then the theoretical science. So in that state, screening was based on the physical laws, mechanics and thermodynamics of material, whether material is useful at the room temperature or not. So on the thermodynamical analysis that has started. So the most important and widely popular techniques that come in the third paradigm, that is the computational science and simulation based on the density functional theory and molecular dynamics. So this is the third paradigm. I am also working in this field, and the most recent and the fourth paradigm in the material design procedure is based on the artificial pattern. That is also known the machine. So it is the most recent technique and people are moving towards this. So I have also a little bit started. So I will give some introduction on this. So this is what is the machine learning. So at the fundament of artificial intelligence, so machine learning has been developed rapidly since the 1980s as an independent discipline. So as humans' ability to collect, store and transmit data continues to increase, we have need artificial intelligence for that. Powerful ability to recognize existing knowledge structure and mine implicit relationship achieves an outstanding performance in many fields such as face recognition, detection, etc. So artificial intelligence has lots of use nowadays. So in material science, it also has application. So in field of material science, machine learning also has a lot of outstanding performance. So through high throughput computational material design is an effective and efficient approach to the discovery of novel material thanks to the development of computational power. Basically, this high throughput screening needs lots of computational power. In various material for broad application area, including topological material, two-dimensional electron gas, perovskite optoelectronics, and so on. Database from the database using data-driven base. High throughput screening for the specific requirement, the data can be screened. So the selection process relies on material descriptor that are computationally viable and accurately describe desired material properties for target application. Now this is the role of us. So the first thought which people has, what is the computational designing? जो भी हो रहा है, it is researcher is doing. So this is the role of the researcher, how we can design any particular material, how we are providing screening parameter for a particular application. Key computational design. So there are material database available, and there are codes available for high throughput computational screening. So these are the few codes, that is simulation environment, MATLAB, and there are online databases also available which use the first principle calculation. So it is FFlowLib, Materials Project, Open Quantum Material Database, Computational Material Repository. Few of them are freely available on the academic registration. You can easily get that. So I will quickly tell you about, give a example of machine learning, how machine learning works. So I take example of AbO3 kind of compound. So if I go to the periodic table, there are total possibility of going to the AbO3 compound are 625. So few of them are already synthesized, few of them are hypothetical. There are possibility, no one has synthesized them, but it is not the case that they cannot be synthesized. So there is a total possibility of 625 material of the AbO3 kind compound. Now how to screen all these compounds? It is not possible for a human these parameters or all these material. For here the role of the machine learning takes place. So in the first screening, we can provide a screening on the basis of the structure. So we only need, if a researcher only need a perovskite kind of compound from the AbO3 kind compound, so he will put a screening, first screening on the basis of the structure. So I need only perovskite kind compound, others can be removed. So in the first screening only, so we remove the 390 compound from this. So the second screening will be on the basis of the, now only 235 materials are remaining in our database. So we will apply second machine learning on the or no. 215 compounds are removed from our database, and we only have now 20 compounds which has a cubic perovskite AbO3 kind compound. So this is the use of machine learning, where we can screen material on the basis of particular requirement. So this is one more example how machine learning can be considered. So this is the example of ABX composition. It has a different prototype structure. So it has 011, 022. It has a different 4 in this composition. A can be these molecule. These are the different choice of molecule for A position. B has different possibilities: monovalent, divalent, bivalent. These are possibility for B atom, and X can be any halide, iodine, bromine, chloride. So in total, if we have the whole database, there is a possible 4,507 hypothetical compound. But the size particular application. Now, how to screen this much large amount of material for a particular application? So the first screening will be on the basis of electronic structure. So let us consider we need a material for photo emitting, light emitting diode, and for photovoltaic application. So we'll put a condition that for light emitting diode, the band gap should be in this range and the effective mass should be less than 1.5 M0. And for photovoltaic material, the band gap should be 0.8 to 2.2 electron volt and the effective mass should be less than this value. The another condition is light emitting diode should have the gap. Consider case of photovoltaic material, we can consider indirect band gap material also. So after putting these screening parameter, now we have reduced the material into 800. We have another basis of to use application. Chemical of the stability. So if the material is stable, thermodynamic stability is at the room temperature. So after putting this screening, now we have 200 candidates with us. So it is a easier situation than the start with the 4,507 hypothesis. Now come to the next need any toxic material. So just remove, we provide next screening on the basis of toxicity. So it will remove the compound based on arsenic, cadmium, mercury, telluride and lead. So after this screening, now we have 23 candidates for light emitting device, light emitting candidate for photovoltaic material. So like to possible for researcher to reduce 3 and 13. It is a good number. We can screen each and every material for each and every parameter. So this is the beauty of the machine learning, how reduce the human time. So but it also need high computational power. So this is the main disadvantage. So we are in the process to getting these method, the density used method. It is also part of the machine learning because the data we need for the machine learning, it will come from the density functional theory only. Okay? So that density functional theory was developed by Professor Walter Kohn, and he got the Nobel Prize in 1998 in chemistry. So if I want to define density functional theory in a simple term, then I can say this is a technique which use atomic number, atomic as an input, and it provides total electronic structure and information about the different ground state and excited state property. How I can define the density functional theory in a general terms. So it is a non-empirical theory that predicts property of a material starting from its structure and chemistry. Now come to the more specific and towards the scientific definition. So the density functional theory provides an exact formulation of the many-body problem in terms of the particle density. Based on two theorems. So the first theorem says the ground state energy is a unique functional of the electron density, and the minimum energy and the minimum of the energy functional is obtained with the ground state density. So with this much information, if we have the ground state density of any material, we can calculate the ground state energy of that material. Okay, so it uses equation to calculate the eigen function and eigen values. So the everyone knows about the Schrodinger equation. We have to use some Hamiltonian and apply eigenvalue and eigenfunction. This is the form of the Hamiltonian. This is electron nucleus interaction, electron electron interaction. But in DFT, that considered. So within this approximation, we solve the Schrodinger equation. So this is the flow chart how density functional theory work. So we need an initial gas for particular material. We start with that density and calculate the effective potential in terms of density. Then the Schrodinger equation is solved and the total ground state energy is calculated with that particular density. If that energy is conserved, it means we are getting towards the total energy. If it is not conserved, then we have to again start with the next gas with some change in the initial gas. So this process goes convergence of 10 power minus 4 Rydberg. So after that, if we achieve that convergence, we can calculate the output properties like electronic structure, electronic, magnetic, optical, anything we can calculate using density functional theory. So these are few codes based on density functional theory. So the most popular one is VASP, then Cascade, Quantum Espresso, Siesta, Crystal, Wien 2K. So few of them are free available on the academic license. So one of them is Quantum Espresso, and Siesta is also freely available. Others are commercial. We have to pay for the license version. So I will start with the results, how we can use density functional theory, specific material design or material property based on the two-dimensional transition metal chalcogenides. So I consider the molybdenum disulfide. It has this structure. This is the bulk structure. So this is the material which was initially designed through the two pair of from that methods can be useful for the new material design. So this is the mono layer of this material. There are two different layers. So if we exfoliate one layer, we can get the mono layer. So experimentally also it is possible. People have synthesized the atomic layer of MOS2. So look at the band structure. This is the energy band diagram. Now show the electron vector. This is the crystal structure. That from the here Fermi by the inspection. This is the valence band. This is the conduction band. So this material is a semiconductor. Now come to the next category of semiconductor, whether it is a direct band gap or you can clearly see because there is valence band is at the gamma point and the minimum of the conduction band is at in between the K and gamma. So it is an indirect band gap semiconductor. So for a specific application, like I have mentioned, in case of photodiode, we cannot use indirect band gap semiconductor. So it is a very good material. So how to make it direct band gap material? So it can be done through exfoliation. So if we convert bulk material to the mono layer, it convert to the direct band gap semiconductor. So this is the energy of this is the band gap. Now you can see this band gap is changed from indirect to the direct band gap semiconductor. So the material is now behaving as a direct band gap semiconductor with band gap at K point. Okay. Now this is about the thickness dependent electronic and optical property. So if the requirement is we want to find a minimum thickness which is sufficient for that particular material. Why we want to use 2 mm, 5 mm thickness if it is if 100 nanometer or 200 nanometer is sufficient. So for that application, we should optimize the thickness dependent properties of the particular material. So here I tried to study what will be the effect of the thickness on the electronic property. So this is for the mono layer, then for the bilayer, then I increase the number of layer and check how the band gap is varying. So after a particular thickness, like after 8 mono layer, the band gap is almost same. There is a change, but it is almost constant. There is no major change. Similarly, if I talk about the direct band gap at gamma and K points, so this same behavior can be observed. So if I take 8 or 14 layer of that particular material, that will be sufficient. We don't need a bulk material with high thickness if we need this desired property. So if we what will be the difference in bulk terms? This is the absorption coefficient calculated using density functional theory. So here you can see the 14 layer of layer of is almost equivalent to the energy in a higher energy range. But if we are interested in the visible energy region for certain application, then this much thickness can be sufficient. Now come to the material. any version. So there are various ways. So here I will specifically talk about the photovoltaic and photocatalytic material. So in case of each and every category had some specific requirement for material, like in but there is common in these material. If I want to design photocatalytic and photovoltaic material, the first requirement that band gap should be in the visible energy region. So this should be the first screening for the material design. So I need a semiconductor material in visible energy region. Now there are further screening on the basis of photocatalysis and also in terms of photovoltaic material that we will check how we design the material. So this is the condition for photocatalytic water splitting. So if we want to use any photovoltaic material for water splitting, and that reaction can be used for various environmental to resolve various environmental issues like dye degradation. So using photocatalyst we can degrade the dye which we are getting from textile industries, different dyes, so they can be degraded. We clearly get the transparent water if we put a reaction on a sunlight in the help of photocatalyst. Then they can use for the hydrogen production also. So there are various applications for photocatalytic water splitting. So this is the another condition. In case of photocatalyst, the band edges of the material should follow this particular pattern. So this is the potential with respect to normalized hydrogen electrode potential. So the conduction band should be more negative. It should be above the zero towards the negative side, and the valence band should be more positive. So this is the favorable band level arrangement condition. If we have such kind of material which has a conduction band minimum here, valence band maximum here, so this is unfavorable. Valence band maximum position for OER. So it cannot be used for OER, but it can be useful for HER reaction. If we take such kind of material which has a conduction band minimum here or valence band maximum here, so it will be favorable for it will not be favorable for HER, but it will be favorable for OER reaction. Okay, so this kind of screening perform before start transition metal oxide, titanium oxide. So this material has a wide band gap, and it is very useful, or it is well known photocatalytic material. The only is high band gap. It is useful for UV solar real scale application. So this is the energy band diagram. You can see this is the indirect. It has a direct band gap of 3.2 electron volt. And these are the density of states. What density of states says? It tell us about the energy of the electron in a particular energy range. So the states per electron volt tell us the density of states. So we can from this analysis we can see the titanium. This is the major contribution of the oxygen atom in the cell. Okay, now we analyze the band edges of TiO2, whether it is useful for AER, OER or HER. So this is the analysis with respect to NHE. So it is also crossing the conduction band minimum is more negative than this potential, and the valence band maximum is towards the positive side. So it is also useful for OER reaction. This is the suitable material for both OER and HER. Whole solar spectrum in the visible energy region. So there are different of so it can be using any substitution of anion experiment. Monodoping usually increase the recombination. Experimentally include that, but it is very difficult to generate that experimentally. So how to overcome all these problems? So there are ways. So we can reduce the band gap in both, also be shifted. So there are two ways: doping and non-compensated co-doping. So we check form, see the co-doping nitrogen. So state. This is the valence band, this is the conduction band. Whatever we have seen in the energy band diagram, we can clearly see here also. So this is the band gap. Okay. As we added nitrogen to the TiO2, there is an additional impurity band formed here. Okay. And this is the Fermi level. So this dotted line, I hope you are able to see this. So this dotted line is the Fermi energy. It means our Fermi energy is shifted towards the valence band. So it changed the material semiconductor property. It becomes a N-type material. Now again, when we dope it with the vanadium, the Fermi is shifted towards the conduction band. When we added both together, the Fermi, so the valence band is also the overall band gap is happen in case of copper and so this is same for nitrogen, the same state we get, but in case of copper, the similar state is formed above the valence band. So there is no change in the conduction band itself due to the copper doping. But when we add copper and nitrogen together, there is a form an intermediate band which reduce the absorption in the visible energy region, actually increase the absorption, sorry. So this is the schematic diagram how the band edge is shifted. So here with vanadium and nitrogen, conduction band is shifted with respect to TiO2. This is TiO2. Conduction band is shifted toward the lower side, valence band is shifted towards the higher side. In case of copper nitrogen, conduction band is shifted with respect to this, valence band is shifted with respect to this, and there is an intermediate band form. So you can see this is the absorption coefficient calculated using Wien 2K code. So here is a increase in the absorption in the, especially in the visible energy region. So this black one shows the band absorption of the TiO2, while using the co-doping of copper and nitrogen, there is a high increase in the absorption in the visible energy region. And experimental, this is the experimental data from our collaborator. So clearly the same thing is observed here. So there are two band edges observed, which clearly show there is a form. So these are the, so from this energy band diagram, it is extrinsic semiconductor. So initially, whatever the band edges are there, there are impurity forms, states formed here. So there are also impurity states here, and after co-doping, this is the single intermediate band form. So it increased the absorption. Now electron can go from here. It need higher energy, but now it has increased the absorption visible based on the boron doping. So how the boron doping in TiO2 increase the photocatalytic activity, that we will check. So that for boron to go in the TiO2 lattice. So experimentalists say the boron can be go to the interstitial and can also go to the substitutional side. Okay, so I have put it boron in the interstitial side of TiO2, substitutional side of TiO2, and both the brought together. So what happened? So this is the formation energy. So what is formation energy? So formation energy is the parameter which decide whether material is stable or not. So the low formation energy suggests that material is stable. Conclude that the substitutional side is more favorable than the interstitial side, and combination of these two are still stable than only the interstitial. So only interstitial of doping of the boron is very less favorable than the combination or only substitution. So here these are the density of states. So you can see this is the TiO2 lattice. So this is for interstitial. The boron is added inside the interstitial space, not replaced any atom. But in case of substitution, replace the oxygen, this red one, and make a substitutional boron doping. And this is the co-doping. It has substitutional also, interstitial also. Now check the what happened to the how many impurity states are formed inside the TiO2 band structure. So on interstitial doping, these are the impurity states. So we can see the Fermi is shifted towards the conduction band. So it forms a N-type doping. Okay, whenever the impurity states are formed or Fermi is shifted towards the conduction band, makes a N-type semiconductor. So on substitution doping, there is an impurity state in between the band gap region, and when we have both substitution and interstitial, these are the impurity states. So how the band edges can be modified? Pure semiconductor how can be converted to the extrinsic semiconductor, N-type or P-type material using the doping of any material. So we can check easily using computational methods. So these are the energy band diagrams. Okay, so these are the experiments. So it is a dye. So it degraded organic dye. So it degraded and effect to pure TiO2. Now application is the recombination rate. How the recombination of electron and holes can affect the photocatalytic application. So higher the ratio of the effective mass of electron and hole, it shows the lower recombination. So what we mean by recombination? So whenever we have the free electron, so electron will be less, there is a more possibility to recombine with the holes in the lattice. So the high combination more crystal, so it will enhance the photocatalytic reaction. So this is the overall result for how we can compare possibility. So this is the result of the light absorption in case of the interstitial boron, substitutional boron, and the interstitial plus substitution. So the light absorption is high in this case, charge separation is high in this case, photocatalytic activity is high in this case, only interstitial, and the stability is high in case of again only interstitial boron. So the light, from here we can conclude that the light absorption is not the only criteria in case of and reaction inside the water at room temperature in the sunlight, so there will be some heating. So a particular environment. So how we can very good in a manner with the experimental data on the we can design new photovoltaic material. So I have used SN and iron doping in CuAl. So in between the valence band and conduction band, So the presence of intermediate band, it increased the efficiency of the solar cell up to 60%. This is the theoretical efficiency. If we use a intermediate band gap solar cell, the efficiency cognite materials use as a solar so how and it and talk very we can use this material for good efficiency if we make it as a intermediate band gap solar cell. So how we can do that? So I have considered these two doping. So these are the energy band diagram after doping of the impurities. So this is for the film. I have considered a thin film, not the bulk material. So in case of thin film, when I prepare the thin film, the material becomes polar. The film becomes polar film. What I mean by polar film, the concentration of copper and aluminium is changed with respect to sulfur. So that that is so with the it is due to the disturbance in the stress gap. Compared as I to film, there is an intermediate band form around the Fermi. Now, what this intermediate band suggests us, it is we can call this band as a partially filled band. What it means? Because from our initial knowledge, whatever we learned in the BSc and MSc, below Fermi level, there is a valence. Is a conduction band. So which kind of band it is, where we will consider it, whether it is a metal, it is a semiconductor. If we consider it as an extrinsic semiconductor, then what is the role of this band gap? So it should be clear that this kind of band can be considered as a partially filled band, valence band contribution and conduction. It is band gap. When we not a single band, there are multiple bands because we have changed the size of the film. This is the 112 and this is the higher atoms are large in this film. That's why the number of bands are high, number of electrons are high in such kind of closed band. But then, so how to analyze any material for solar cell applications? Again, effective mass is very important. So we photovoltaic and photocatalytic material. So we analyzed in terms of effective mass. We calculated theoretical fill factor. See theoretical efficiency of 15.88. It is high as experimental limitation of the band gap. Usually density functional theory underestimate the band gap. So due to this, we are getting little bit high value. So here we are getting increase if we talk about quality, about what is the number. But if we compare with respect to the base material, there is an increase in the efficiency in both the cases. But which one will be more suitable for photovoltaic application, that can be decided on the basis of the effective mass analysis. So the SN dope COL2 has high effective mass ratio of electron and hole. So that is give us the less possibility of recombination. So that is I have completed here. So at the end, I will only give a comment here. So there are different methods for material design, but if we start with the trial and error experimental method, then it will be very time consuming and initially whatever the result we will get, it is not necessary it will always positive. So as we go to the computational and computational aspects using density functional theory, high throughput screening or machine learning, the material development speed will increase. So using machine learning we can easily design material for a specific application within less time, and then that material can go from here to here. Way I will suggest this should be the best route: quantum mechanical calculation, then high throughput screening, then machine learning, and then go to the experimental section for the verification of the result. As a theoretician, I will suggest that route. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very nice and informative information. So now, is there any questions in the participant which are available here?
Yes, ma'am. Shardul Vadalkar here.
Yes, Mr. Shardul.
First of all, thank you for accepting our invitation and giving us this very informative webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And no, actually, I had one question. I heard only which local density approximation underestimates. You said that DFT in general underestimates the band gap.
Yes.
So I was a little bit confused in that.
No, the density functional theory has different approximation. One is the local density approximation, another one is generalized gradient approximation. Yes. All that approximation underestimate the band gap. If you hide the Hartree fork, so there are hybrid functional available. They give almost close to the experimental band gap, or sometimes overestimate the band gap. So if we use only DFT, there will be always an underestimation.
Okay.
That is my
one. That is, what should be the optimal value for short current density and open circuit voltage for photovoltaic devices?
Photovoltaic devices, actually in terms of experiment, I don't have any idea how much should be that. In terms of band gap should be in the visible energy region from 1.1 to 1, but the I'm sorry, I don't have that idea.
Just theoretical values. What theoretical values?
I'm not sure, so I don't want to make any comment right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Shardul sir. Okay, sir, yeah. Yes, no problem. Continue. Is there any question?
Yes, there was another question which came. Okay, and that is, what are the other factors that are for bit layer of photovoltaic devices?
The efficiency on the because talking about the absorber layer, so there one thing is band gap, another thing is recombination. How the absorption will be there in a high absorption, we can get the high absorption. Actual solar cell application, due to the interface which we use to make a solar cell, that interface is also important. How much the outer window will be, what will be the interface with the outer window of that particular absorbance material, so that should also be considered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shardul sir. Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Suppose we were using DFT, suppose we are using the quantum espresso, and we would like to prepare the structure like this. For example, AL64 and PP36 at the bulk level. So, is there any using just like X-crystalline or any type of material? Or sorry, any type of techniques we can
visualization. Okay, are you talking about the visualization, initial structure preparation?
Yeah, initial structure we are going to prepare, but is it will be your proper, we can say the material we can design, means suppose AL63 or we can say PB24, any type of ratio. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible using quantum espresso or
Yes,
there are
yes,
techniques?
yes, that can be done. So there is a visualizer called Burai, Burai. Yeah,
Okay.
so you can use that. It is a very user friendly for generation, and it has a very environment there. Whatever doping you want to do, you can easily consider the site substitution. You can make the you can. It is a
Ma'am, how that thing? I think that was same thing. So
Yes.
how this is there? What about the parameters? Means if you are going to utilize quantum espresso, it should change. Like
Yeah, definitely. I will tell you. In case of bulk, what we consider, we are assuming that there is a periodic environment in the three dimension within the density functional theory. So, if we want to create a thin film, we have to add a vacuum in a particular direction. So, we are need a two-dimensional material. So, in which direction we want to grow the film? Suppose I have considered the 001. Environment. So I have added a vacuum. So whatever the lattice parameter in the C axis, I around particular layer. So the next periodic arrangement will be after 12 angstrom. So there will be no interaction between two successive layers. So then we can call it as a film.
okay, thank you. And my last question that what about DFT is very famous as far as concerned the theoretical computational work. So what about right now there? Obviously, there will be a number of latest research also on the pandemic of COVID-19. So, as per you, what is your opinion right now that how in various
Yes, definitely. People are using density functional theory for the detection of the. Actually, we know the size of the bacteria. If we take example, so if we want to design a mask or any material which cannot cross that, the bacteria cannot bypass from that particular layer. So we can check any molecule of that particular size, which is, and we can check whether it can pass through that or not. So that kind of computation, people are working in this field actually. So there is lots of application in medical field also. Delivery, how the molecule behave in that.
Hello, ma'am. Excuse me.
Yes, sir, sure.
Madam, thank you for informating information about the session.
Yeah,
Can you, madam, my question is there. If it is possible for DFT in a multi-layer thin films,
Yes, definitely, it is possible.
and what are the parameters can be upgraded that one? If you are designing a nulling and blocking layer about that.
Okay. So I will give you example, like the case which I consider CuAls2. There are other materials CuIns2, which has a low band gap. CuAls2 has a high band gap. For band gap grading, if we combine these two, so we'll take, as I discussed, I'll make a thin film with a particular vacuum. Then within that vacuum, I'll add another film of CuIns2. So there will be a multi-layer kind of environment, and after that, we'll add vacuum so that it can behave as a film, and we can check the interaction, what will happen at the surface. So that study can be possible, sir.
But there is a possibility for the limitation about the thickness of the film.
Yes, definitely, because as we increase the number of atoms, the computational time will increase. So this is the disadvantage, or not disadvantage. It is a limitation at our end. Facility go to the 1000 atom, but right now whatever facility I have, I cannot go more than 200 atoms. So this is towards the computational aspect. So as we increase the number of atoms, the computational time will increase. So somewhere we have to compromise between the accurate result and the real scenario.
Okay, there is a minimum thickness is there. If it is, we can use a micron.
Minimum you can go up to atomic layer. The problem is up to the maximum side. Minimum there is no issue. We can take one atomic layer also.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Now, is there any question?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear?
Yes, Sharad. Sure.
Yes, ma'am. Since you initiated this machine learning, I was curious about the thing. Can you hear?
Okay.
Yes, so ma'am. In that you have said that you have a lot of database and you give parameters to figure out materials.
Yes.
So there are different stages. Can we combine this? As you said, suppose we are interested in X, Y, Z parameters. We give
Yes.
parameters and train some materials, then give Y parameters. So what question is, can we combine these parameters since we know what are the properties of all these thousands of compounds? So
Yes,
can
so
we
the
simply
screening, yeah. Sorry.
can
Yeah, you
we
can.
simply give this combination of parameters and take those particular materials, or is it only possible stage by stage?
Actually, it is preferred that we go by stage by stage, because if we put so many parameters at the same screening, it will not give us the
Okay.
desired result. There is a possibility we miss something. So it is
Okay.
possible. It is good to use by going by the stepwise procedure.
Also, maybe it will be affecting the computational cost.
Yes,
And-
definitely. The machine learning needs so much computational time.
Okay, and also we have seen papers that ML can predict the properties also. So
Yes, but from the available data only.
yes, means if it since I don't know, since you are only initiating, maybe I am overestimating the thing. I don't know. So is it suppose that we have this hundreds of simple cubic structure and we are putting those parameters and lattice parameters in the another database, and we are telling machine learning to give me the properties of this element or this crystal structure. Is it like that?
If you need a cubic structure, if you given as I given the example of AbO3, so there are so many structure of that. Okay, so
Yes.
finally we refine to the cubic structure, so it gives us about 20 cubic structure with AbO3 kind of structure. So it is a perovskite with AbO3 and cubic. So now we have the 20 particular compound. Now if you want to screen that particular compound on the basis of band gap, if you have the particular requirement that I need in the visible energy region, so you can use that screening also for further screening. So maybe you have the 6, 7 at the end.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think, is there any question? Okay, so thank you so much, ma'am, for a very informative and very nice session, and I think it is very beneficial for all of us. And so once again, on behalf of whole Applied Science and Humanities Department of Padua University, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and thank for accepting our invitation and for providing very informative information for all of us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.